Hi, and welcome to the March 30th Ampleforth office hours. Hope everybody is having a great week. There is, as ever, a ton happening across the Ampleforth ecosystem, Ampleverse, if you will. So let's dig right in. First and foremost, want to recognize that last Friday, AIP5 officially launched to the Ampleforth Protocol. For those of you who have not been following, this is updating the protocol with a sigmoid curve function. This gives a powerful new layer of security, makes AMPL more configurable than ever, and more to the point, I think, just really make sure that we are following a really tight rebasing window, and AMPL does what AMPL is supposed to do. Another big upcoming milestone this week is this Friday, April 1st. This is not an April Fool's. The fourth minting process will kick off. We anticipate the snapshot will be live on the forum by then, and it should be a week or so until that's finalized. Also on the fourth front, another major milestone. April is going to be a very big month. April 16th, all unclaimed fourth that was minted just over a year ago is going to be shifted over to the control of the fourth DAO. So as of April 16th, the fourth DAO is going to be one of the 50 largest DAOs in the world, if not more. So more to come on that front, but a really exciting moment coming for this project. We're going to shift gears in a moment to an Ask Us Anything session. Beyond the core contributor team, we are also very excited today to welcome the Hourglass team to talk about a recent grant proposal they put out and answer any questions this community has. So with that, Simon, we'll turn it over to you.
Let's hop into questions. I've got on the text front, not a ton pouring in. And then I think otherwise we've got anyone who wants to raise their hand can go ahead and do that.
I think Solomon wanted some clarification on the AMPL treasury. Did you see that question?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I did see that. I just had a few questions go through the general channel earlier, so I'm happy to weigh in on those maybe at the start.
Go for it. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a handful of those. So first on the Treasury side, Treasury and Ecosystem Fund. Yeah, great question. So as Matt said earlier, April 16th, that's when the unclaimed fourth will be moved from the claim contract to control of the fourth DAO. Now that's separate from like the Treasury and Ecosystem Fund, right? So that was something that was allocated way back in the day at network launch to sort of fund operations in the foundation. Now we have, and also provide liquidity and liquidity incentives. We have talked about transferring some of those over to control of the fourth DAO as well, but more to come on that soon. But a high-level note is, in general, like we have always taken the approach of progressive decentralization. And so that means gradually moving forward towards something that could be, quote, capital D, centralized, or whatever that means. So that means, lots of steps towards a direction as the maturity of the protocol makes sense. So hopefully that sort of makes sense there. So happy to keep on moving down that path as we can. And then let's see. So there's been some talk about the state of the oracles as well, and the sort of market dynamics that are going on. So some people have realized or seen or observed the markets on Gate.io, MEXC are operating a little bit differently than others. It appears to be the case that those have paused deposits and withdrawals. We don't have any extra information there, but we are reaching out to our friends in the ecosystem, including Oracle providers like Chainlink, who can talk to data providers. We can get some answers on that shortly. But we're aware of it, they're aware of it, and I think very soon, hopefully within a day, we'll have more information to work on there. But yeah, in general, different data providers do take data from across the ecosystem, and they do try to make that representative of the ecosystem as well. And so they'll be filtering out, they're supposed to filter out low quality markets or markets with low confidence. So there's also a question about 1inch and Balancer. I can't remember who asked this. But yeah, so I think the way Balancer currently operates is a very large percentage of the trade volume on Balancer comes through aggregators like 1inch and Paraswap and 0x. And so the integration of these Balancer pools into aggregators will have a very material effect on how much traffic gets routed to them. So I think it's very important that we do get integrated into the aggregators. It's maybe less of an issue on very small number of exchanges like Uniswap, but on anything past Uniswap, I think aggregators are highly important for trade routing and making the volume accessible. I think that's all the questions that I saw earlier. Happy to jump into everything else from here.
Sounds good. And just adding one bit of clarity on that first one would be rehashing the timeline really quickly. The expansion, which is annually of the fourth token, is up to 2%, and that's annual, and that goes to the control of fourth voters once it's claimed. That's the thing that happens on April 1st. Then on April 16th, that's when the claim period for the unclaimed fourth tokens, that 1-year cliff is hit, and that becomes eligible to go under control of fourth holders. And so just adding that bit of clarity on what these pools of funds are, where they come from. And you can see those things, like those are well-known public pieces of info. All right, so back to these other newer, fresher questions. John asked, what is the roadmap for the Ample-backed stable? What quarter are we looking at for launch?
I think it's too early to talk about quarters for launch because there's so many variables involved in development, from development itself to security audits to everything like that. So we're continuing to work on it. We're making progress day by day, and I mean we're hoping for sometime in the summer, but we'll see how it goes from there. Yeah, it's really hard to make promises right now.
Gotcha. And John also asked, did the AIP5 make the cost of the rebase transaction more expensive with more complex math?
I have gas numbers offhand, so possibly, but when you compare the amount of gas spent on the rebase itself compared to the cost of downstream orchestrator calls or bridging the rebase across chain, it's negligible. We did a smart approximation technique for the sigmoid function itself, so it's not 100% mathematically accurate, but it's close enough where it's very, very difficult to tell the difference, if that makes sense. So maybe very slightly, but I don't think it'd be a meaningful increase in gas.
Cool. Give it another minute for questions to flow through if anybody has them. And of course, if you want to raise your hand, you can just ask it, or you can just chat about things in general. And then if you have a question to type up via text, looks like there's a couple more coming through. After that, I see a few really familiar faces, Loki with Elastic, DeVoice, and Solomon with AmpleSense and the Elastic Vault, Fiddlekins, obviously with PRL, which you guys are doing a lot of things, and then GS, Bear Mauler, you guys are working on Hourglass, Ample Tools is working on Ample Tools. So after this, if you guys have anything to add, we'll quickly have an overview of a proposal from the Hourglass guys in the fourth DAO, and then we can hop in and just discuss all the projects that you guys are working on. No pressure to do so, but if you want to take a minute at the end of this, you can go ahead and do that. Here are a couple questions. One from Alchemy Farmer Dave. Who does Ample get for doing security audits? Do you want to just talk about maybe who we've used in the past, Brandon, and who we like to go to because we've had a lot done. I think that security is really important here.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, so we've worked with a number of security auditors in the past. So our first security audits were way back in 2019, maybe even 2018. I can't remember. But the first round of security audits we did with the base protocol was with Trail of Bits and another group called Slow Mist. We've also worked with QuantStamp and Certicay in the past, and PeckShield for various projects. So right now we're getting to the point where we're starting to reach out to security auditors for this stable-backed stablecoin we have in development. But that's with the expectation that auditors are booked out way in the future. In terms of auditors we've had the most, I'd say, positive experience with, I would say like TrailBits, HeckShield are kind of near the top up there. But as is probably a lot of people would realize, the sort of top tier security auditors, they're booked way out in the future. I think TrailBits booked out towards like January 2023. And the cost also goes up with the sort of quality and reputation there. I've heard good things about other auditing firms like Chain Security and others. So I think we'll be reaching out to a lot more from here. And then as a general note, when it comes to security, I think my perspective is that no matter who we get for security reviews, the reputation ultimately rests on the shoulders of the developers who have the most knowledge of the program under development. And security audits are, they're just sort of like peer reviews. And so they can help you, but it doesn't really absolve you of doing all of the security work that you should be doing for safe development practices.
We had a question on what is fourth minting. I think if you're asking like what that is, the event, and Brandon, go ahead and pile on. A lot of governance tokens have an expansion of supply year to year. It's important for people can lose tokens, they can get locked, there can be all kinds of issues. And if there's a token that governs a protocol, it's important that that token continues to be in existence. That's why up to 2% of the supply can be minted every year. And so this is the first year, April 1st is when it becomes available for Fourth to go ahead and mint 2% of the fourth, which can then be claimed and put under the discretion of fourth holders. And there's going to be a snapshot vote on that, which you'll see. We've discussed a little bit, and folks can vote on if they want to have that 2% inflation of fourth minted and then put under the control of fourth holders to decide what to do with it. And that's right around the corner here in just a couple of days. So that's when the process will start. Brandon, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I think the inflation is just a part of the tokenomics of the fourth design. So as Simon said, it's capped at 2% per year. So that's enforced by smart contract logic. So that gives everyone confidence in the knowledge that inflation will never exceed 2%. And there's a few reasons why that was included in the design of fourth. A big one is that one nice thing about having a separate governance token from AMPL itself is that we're free to have different monetary or tokenomics designed. So AMPL, part of what makes AMPL special is that it is non-dilutive and non-extractive. So it doesn't charge any fees on transfer. There's no demurrage or anything like that. And it's no like fraction of rebase is extracted to go to any other entity. And so with fourth, we have the ability to sort of add in some measured inflation if we choose to, and this can be used for things like funding ongoing protocol operations, like paying for Oracle fees or subgraph calls or things like that. It can also be used to help grow the ecosystem through operations like from the fourth DAO and whatnot. So those are the reasons why it's in there. Then the minting that's coming up is just the first one that's ever been done because it's a year since launch. And so we have the opportunity right now to have up to 2% mint if the DAO chooses. So that's what that's all about.
Got it. There's other questions, but these two relate to it. Sunbreather asks, is there an expected date for the signal vote on the minting?
Yeah, so it seems like there is widespread support. I haven't seen any detractors. In general, I think it's good practice for governance proposals to be on the forum for at least 5 or so days to allow for good discussion before we do any of the next steps like snapshot votes or on-chain votes. But I think we're getting pretty close to 5 days since that was posted. So I think the snapshot should be going up any day now, unless people have other issues they'd like to bring up before that.
Cool. Fiddlekins asked a tough question. This one's a bit off topic, but does the team have any thoughts about the ongoing geopolitics in relation to crypto?
Man, so this is a question for probably Manny.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same
or
thing.
someone else. This is way outside of my knowledge, and so anything I'd say would be probably not well informed. So I think I'll stay within my lane.
I'm in the same boat. Maybe we need a guest feature of Manny. Yeah, I imagine you had already spoke to Manny Fiddlekins. That makes sense. Alchemy Farmer Dave asked, if someone ports Ample to a new chain, how does the security auditing work? Is arranging for that and paying for an audit the responsibility of whoever reported it, or does Ample take care of it, help with it somehow?
Yeah, so one really cool thing about the protocol is that it is, open access. So anyone can bridge Ample to any chain if they wanted to. And that's kind of allowed for in the design architecture of how we bridge across chains. So there's no permission necessary in order to do so. The security of Ample on that target chain is just dependent on the bridging mechanism involved and whoever the maintainers are of those. So Ample could be bridged to another chain the same way that anyone could bridge, BTC to Ethereum. Like there's WBTC, there's no BTC, and that sort of thing. Now, in terms of security audits, because it can be done by any party, it's sort of can be done however that party chooses. However, if they want to support for the cost, they can definitely come to, for example, the fourth DAO and provide like a proposal for a grant. And I think that's a great thing for sort of these grant capital to be used for potentially.
Cool. There's one follow-up question, but I think we're starting to get in the weeds there, which you can read some of the docs to understand this a bit better. But the question was, does exchanges holding count toward the minting on April 1st or self-custody wallets? Is there any rewards if you're holding Forth in your private wallet? The answer to that is it's not. It's up to 2% of the Forth supply can be minted on that date, and then Forth voters decide what to do. So if there's something you'd like to have happen with that Forth, you can go ahead and chat about it in the governance forum. You can see if people support that idea or not, and you can even start a vote. But yeah, it's just a little bit different than maybe what your question's asking there. I think that's most of the questions. Yeah, that's the question. So it'd be great to have maybe Sunbreather, GS, and anyone who put that proposal forward for the grant. It'd be a good time to chat about that, and then we can hop into some of the ecosystem projects that are being developed. I think it'd be cool for people to provide some updates because there's been a lot moving.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
And Simon. So I guess I can start off by giving everyone a brief rundown on what we're doing and what the grant is for. I think probably a lot of people in the theater have seen, but if not, the quick notes version is basically we've been working on a project since the hackathon that started back in the fall of 2021. And back when we did that hackathon, it was sort of just like a niche sort of project that we were doing that was like a derivative asset of AMPL. But since then, we sort of discovered that we can use this for all sorts of useful purposes. And one of the things that one of the areas where we think this can be really useful is for all of the unclaimed Forth that is going to go to the Forth treasury in about a couple of weeks. So that's like a large amount, right? That's been mentioned before. It puts Forth in top 50 DAO territory. I think it's somewhere on the order of $26 million. And I think a lot of the stuff that's been brought up before is using those funds to fund projects, right? As grants. And one of the areas where we could see the Hourglass product being used is a allowing the fourth to essentially borrow against that unclaimed fourth in order to fund like projects. So instead of granting projects with fourth outright, you could grant them stable coins that essentially the DAO borrows, right? So this is like a huge benefit, we think, to the fourth DAO because it allows the DAO to have access to funds without putting any downside pressure on the fourth token is one benefit. Another benefit to this is that it brings a lot of awareness about AMPL itself, as well as like the power of rebasing, where our product is essentially built off of the PRL contracts, which are being used for AMPL tranches, as well as the AMPL stablecoin that's being built out. So it brings a lot of adoption, like awareness about the utilities of those contracts. And a third benefit also is just that those contracts can be arranged such that if the community, if like free acting community members also wanted to borrow against their fourth, then those contracts can be set up such that a portion of that is taken as a fee that goes to the DAO treasury, and the DAO can decide what they want to do with it. So we think there's like several benefits here that that could come to the fourth DAO for us to build out this product. Originally, since it did start off as sort of just like this niche hackathon project, we didn't expect that it would sort of grow, I guess, to this point. So the request for our the grant is essentially so that we can go full time and commit to a timeline on this because the scope sort of just has been expanding, and unfortunately, because of that, we haven't been able to commit to a timeline. But we think it's a good investment for the fourth DAO, and yeah, we're open here to answer any questions about how it works or what we're going to use the grant for, which is just essentially just so that we can go full time. But hopefully that answers most of the questions. Haven't been looking at the chat if there's anything there.
Yeah, I didn't see anything yet, but if anyone has questions, obviously go ahead and fire them away. Thanks for kind of stepping up and going over the proposal a bit. Any thoughts that anyone has, even just commentary on it, is great to receive, and you can raise your hand and speak on it, or go ahead and text it up.
G, can you hear me, G?
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, so in terms of this proposal, so this seems like it would be more than just for Hourglass. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, yeah, it'd be more than yeah, that's correct. Like I think the idea is that any DAO would sort of be able to use these contracts in this way. We're going to start off by setting it up such that it's mainly for the fourth DAO at the beginning, but it is expandable so that any DAO can use it.
No, I'm sorry. Let me clarify. I mean, in terms of someone being able to put a proposal up for the fourth DAO, and the DAO would like accepting it as a grant or granting that exception. Does that make sense?
Sorry, I think I'm going to need you to say that again one more time.
Okay, so so for instance, if another project wanted to, so this is more of like a way that Ford can support the ecosystem is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So the fourth DAO would essentially use the Hourglass contracts to borrow, USD or some other stable coin, and they can use those stable coins to fund other projects that they'd like, right? So that's the idea.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Yeah. And I think to sort of like build on that, like since it seems like we're maybe the first to sort of ask for this kind of grant, so for us it would be receiving fourth tokens, but once we set up these contracts, then it'll set up a system to where that basically won't be necessary anymore, as you sort of suggested.
Yeah, we think it's a good long-term sort of investment so that the DAO doesn't ever need to give up its fourth tokens outright anymore. So yeah, that's the way we see it.
What would be the timeline in terms of having these contracts launch?
Yeah, so I think if we were to get the grant go through, then we can commit to having this ready in around 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
And somebody that you can talk about a little bit more, but like we feel like we've been working like pretty fast considering we've just been doing it part-time, and we think if we can go, full-time with this, that we can commit to that timeline.
Yeah, and just to expand a little bit on the timeline, I guess, we've been working on this since, like you said, since last fall, and it's, we have a testnet version launched, and anyone can go look at that and use it right now. But even in just this last couple of months, we feel like we've really gotten a lot done, even just part time, and we've been putting in our 40 hours a week at our real-time jobs, but we've also been putting in 20, 30, 40 hours of additional work into Hourglass on top of that, and we've still been able to get what we've gotten done so far. So we think we've already decided that if the grant goes through, we'll be basically putting in our 2 weeks at our real jobs to take on this full time, and that's sort of what the grant would help support, is helping us provide for ourselves and our families while we make this transition into building out sort of this DeFi ecosystem full time. But if in 4 months we got done what we got done doing it part time, then in another 4 months of doing it full time with no other distractions, we think we can really show what we're capable of, and I think you'll get a finished product within those 4 months.
Yeah, expanding on that, I think to also answer the Voice's question. So there's also other things that we would need to spend, I guess, in order to support it. So the first question was, will the tokens need to have an Oracle feed? And the answer to that is yes. Like, we need to have an Oracle set up for the fourth token. We actually spoke with the Chainlink team about that earlier today, and we figured out the process for getting that set up. So there is a feed that'd be required in order to use the Chainlink DONs that's already set up for existing price feeds like ETH and Bitcoin and stuff. So part of it would also be used for that. In terms of minimum liquidity level for the loans to operate, there's like a minimum liquidity level to set up the Oracle, which we found out today, and we think it's those requirements. In terms of for the actual loans, there's no liquidity like level for that. It works the same way as the AMPL tranches loans contracts. So there's no real liquidity requirement there, and there's also no liquidations either, just like those contracts.
Yeah, so G and Summer there first. Kudos on all the work you've done on Hourglass so far. It's really cool and really exciting to see this kind of work being done from you guys. I can't wait to see it actually out there. And also a good job on the proposal itself. So as you said, this is the first proposal that's come through to the fourth DAO, and I think it can set the pattern for future proposals as well. So great job doing that also. Also along that same line, people have also discussed launching a more formal grants process. I know someone is actually focused on that right now and has some ideas. So excited to see where that goes. But I think the proposal that you guys put together will inform that as well.
Yeah, we think so too. Yeah, we want to get moving quickly. So I think that's why we didn't want to wait for, I guess, having like a formalized grant proposal to be set up. But yeah, we think this is a good first step that will actually help. Yeah, as you said, like advise that, because it sets up a tool for the DAO to use in funding future grants.
Yeah, totally agree. There's no real timeline on how long it would take, or if the grants committee ultimately gets created. So I think it's totally great for you guys to go forward.
Looks like there was one more question from, not that I need to moderate you guys chatting about your proposal, but looks like Mynema had a question. If you want to hit that question, then maybe we can hop into some of the other guys. Yeah.
Take a look at that. What level of ownership would the DAO have over maintenance of these contracts, and will there be a means of leveraging them to support ongoing DAO financing / costs? So yeah, I think at a high level, yeah, like so in terms of maintenance of the contracts themselves, I think the Hourglass team would own that, like would be responsible for making sure that those are audited and proper before we like launch those. I think the fourth DAO would just be a use case of the contracts, but yeah, like the fourth DAO would be able to use it to leverage against their assets to support any DAO costs that you guys have. So if there's any, for example, like paying for the rebase, if that's something that the DAO wants to borrow against your assets to fund, then yeah, that's something that the DAO can totally do. It can be used for anything. And I guess will the contracts be open source? I think it's the question. Or let me read this again. Or will they be completely open and expect that other DAOs will clone and manage themselves? So I think, yeah, with respect to like opening up these contracts to other DAOs, I think the way it would work is we would do something similar where like we reach out to them or they reach out to us and we partner with them in terms of figuring out how we set up the Oracle, et cetera, and setting up some of the metrics and stuff. So I guess actually now's a good time to mention that as a part of this process, there are like certain metrics I think that we need to come to agreement on with the community for how the loans are structured. So our Hourglass team can help like facilitate that discussion on the forum. We can make a proposal for what we think is best for the community and we can sort that out. So generally speaking, yeah, like DAOs won't like, I think the sort of model is that we would work together with the DAO who's interested in using the contracts and figure out what terms work and then launch the contracts appropriately.
I think it is the case. This is a problem facing just about every DAO out there. So yeah. A lot of DAOs, they start by launching their own token essentially, and so their treasury is just their own token. Uniswap, for example, might be the extreme form of this, where they have like a $2 billion treasury, all the Uni token, nothing else. And so there's a question of, so like first of all, how do you diversify the risk of the assets that you hold? But also secondly, how do you use those assets without putting direct downward pressure on the token itself?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and thanks for that, guys. I think we can roll into some other. I mean, a lot of the community projects are in here, like as I mentioned before. So we can hop on back to Hourglass in a minute if some of the other folks want to chat about what they've been up to. Solomon, you're up here. I know you and DeVoice have been long time community members, and you've been working on AmpleSense DAO for a long time. If you're interested in sharing what you guys are up to with the Elastic Vaults lately, that's great. I know Loki, if anybody else as well. Yeah, go ahead, Solomon.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it again having us this week too. One thing we've been able to see, now that the Elastic Vaults are launched, and by the way, so the Elastic Vaults are simply a way for Ampleforth holders to earn yield on their Ample through every phase of Ample's rebase. So that's positive, neutral, and most importantly, negative rebase periods. And so we do have a gift that sort of explains that process and what it looks like. And one of the things we've been able to see over the last 2 weeks since the official launch is that the vault has gone through every phase of Ampleforth's rebase. So we've had negative rebase, we've had neutral, and the last 2 days we finally, for the first time, had a positive rebase in which the vault was able to do what it's designed to do and actually use a portion of the positive rebase to burn the EPI token, essentially reducing the supply and obviously, hopefully over time, raising that value. So it was very nice to go through that milestone. It's something that, because obviously we've been working on this specific vault since the end of 2020. So it's been nice to just finally get this product out there, see it actually work and get the amount of deposits that we sort of have right now. So looking forward, now that we've been through every phase and we've seen that things are sort of working, obviously little kinks here and there that we've sort of had to work through. But for the most part, things looking fine, things looking good. And so now we're going to shift our focus to increasing Ampleforth deposits, because it's the deposits that really fuel the vault for the 90-day period that they're locked in. So as a community, now we have to shift to sort of finding ways to increase the amples within the vault so that it can really showcase what it's meant to do. We do have a Twitter space coming up tomorrow. I think it's around 7:30 CST. I think that's 8:30 Eastern, in which we'll be sort of talking about these issues around how do we, in the ample utility era, like what does success look like, where these sort of utilities play into that, and how the Elastic Vault, obviously, how the Elastic Vault also plays into that. So, yeah.
Nice. And two things, I guess three things. You guys are the first vault, which is really cool to see.
Yeah.
Hat tip to you guys for that. If you guys are having a Twitter space, what's the handle? How do people?
Oh yeah. My bad. So we're actually having it with Nestor, the founder of AMPLcast. So we'll actually be having it on his profile, wherever the AMPLcast is held. That's where we'll be holding it. Hopefully somebody could type it in the chat. But I don't know. I just know it's the AMPLcast channel, I believe.
Cool. Yeah. It looks like
to correct me.
Yeah. No, he put it in there. It looks like March 31st, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and it's at Life of Crypto.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. But yeah, we'll be holding it with him, and obviously everybody's encouraged to come through, support. We're a community. As a community, it's good to support each other. The Voice will be talking also. So that's my other co-founder of the AmpleSense staff. So we'll both be sort of discussing these issues around Ample's utility era and how we sort of succeed together as a community.
Cool.
Is Brendan, you still here?
Yeah, still here. So
how's it going? So I did want to clarify one thing with the Ample Treasury in connection to the fork DAO. So it sounds like the fork DAO will not be getting the Treasury, but there is a process to where in the future it could get some of it.
Yeah, so this might be scooping a little bit. We're hoping to talk a little bit more of that soon. But yes, okay. So there's some, we're talking about some options here, and I think it'll be pretty good for the fork DAO.
Okay, cool. Okay, sounds good.
Cool, great.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, if anyone else wants to comment on what they've been up to, I'm for one thrilled to see so much community development as we hit this utility era. There's just a lot more that can be done with Ample, and there's a lot more that can be done on top of that because all the things you guys are building, and it is great to see. So yeah, take the chance to share whatever it is that you'd like to about your projects. And other than that, I think we could probably wrap it for the day. Hey Loki, you want to hop up? 1 second. Hey, how you doing?
Hey guys.
Yep, gotcha.
Cool. So yeah, just real quick on where we're at. Obviously, Token launched about years ago. Obviously, really excited about that. We were at the Avalanche Summit last week. Obviously, met a lot of really interesting projects. Try to get the word out about projects working on elastic supply tokens. Dan and Ocean heads down in terms of sort of coding the front end and getting ready for the protocol launch, which is still slated for early May, where the initial pool being launched on Avalanche will be an Ample USDC pool. So obviously excited about that. Appreciate and it's been great to see the sort of the collaboration between all these sort of the elastic supply projects and certainly the Ample community jumping in our Discord, giving us support, following us on Twitter. And so, stay tuned. Obviously, a lot more to come out. Dan's been, for those who are in our Discord, know that Dan, LS Dan, has a tendency to sort of leak alpha here and there. So, keep an eye out for that stuff. And, again, can't say enough about the support we've gotten from the Elastic Supply community broadly. And, obviously look forward to liftoff.
For sure. And I don't think you dropped the name, but Loki's with Elastic Swap, and that's an Elastic AMM and on Avalanche, as you mentioned. Where's the best place to keep tabs with you guys? Discord, Twitter?
Elastic Swap is the protocol. Discord and Twitter are probably the best places to keep track, although we, probably a little bit more active on Discord than we are on Twitter. And again, we'll be the first AMM that sort of specializes in dealing with Elastic Supply tokens. We'll be launching on Avalanche initially, but bridging to ETH very quickly, and are already deep in conversation with a number of other protocols that are using Elastic Supply tokens within their protocols. So stay tuned. Lots of stuff coming up.
Yeah, can't wait till May. That'd be awesome. If nobody else, Hourglass, I figured we'd just come back to you guys, because then break it up a touch. Anything for you guys to report on the Hourglass front, or you gave us a pretty decent update?
No, I think that was most for. I actually had a question for Loki while he was here. So about the Elastic Swap AMM, I was wondering, do you guys anticipate any legal hurdles or that sort of stuff? Or I'm not sure if you can comment on it, but because it's I think my understanding is that the PRL team also had Elastic, or they had an Elastic AMM that is sort of just been hung up because of legal stuff. So is that something you guys are already caught up on, or?
Yeah, so as with a lot of projects in the crypto space, expensive lawyers have a tendency to sort of help head off some of these problems. So we have made sure to check all the boxes in terms of structuring it the right way, and likewise, the entity that actually launched the token, no U.S. citizens involved there. So from that perspective, we're on the right track there. So listen, the token launch was was sort of conducted in a way just to sort of allow for it to get out there, allow the community to get comfortable with sort of the various staking mechanisms. And again, stay tuned. There are some additional staking pools that are in the works. Bottom line is, we are excited to get up and running. We couldn't be more proud of the fact that AMPL is going to be our initial launch partner, and will be the first pool. And again, essentially what this should solve, or essentially what our protocol with the AMM solves, is for impermanent loss that occurs in traditional AMMs, and it reduces the necessity for a sync function to be called manually for the rebalancing of a pool. And so essentially what we do is that when a rebase occurs, the additional tokens on either side of a token pair are set aside, and the next LP that enters the pool is incentivized to rebalance the pool. And so rather than sort of requiring a manual, which both in the case of, again, sort of inefficiencies that occur using traditional AMMs, there is no manual call function that has to occur. There's a huge efficiency gained through impermanent loss reduction, and there's a huge gas savings, particularly as again we plan to bridge to Ethereum very quickly, where again there are a number of protocols that have that are using Elastic Supply tokens.
So thanks for getting a download on that. I guess finishing off here. For I guess those who haven't been up to date, our Glass team, we launched our testnet for our alpha. It was the few weeks ago. We haven't gotten that much feedback, so we'd love to get more feedback because the UI is going to be very similar to what we have on testnet right now. So if anyone wants to go ahead and give that a shot, you can reach out to me or Sunbreather if you need testnet Apple or testnet ETH, and we can get you guys set up because we'd love to get some feedback for our UI. But yeah, that's all the updates that we had.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. If there aren't any other questions or anybody else that wants to add anything, I think we could probably call it a day.